Wow, I am actually doing 3 today. I'm impressed. So this is another viewer request. This is from Sanjana Hedgedi. So I apologize if I butchered your name. But I really wanted to do a video on this because it really spoke to me on the whole INTJ female as a youth. And I'm just going to speak a little bit about the public comment that she had posted where she is in her late teens and she's feeling just, frustrated and unhappy and isolated and worried that is this all there is in life? And where they're at and that's the scope that they get to enjoy or lack thereof for the rest of their existence. And she makes mention that also the idea of society and materialism. So this spoke to me because I definitely can relate, especially when I was younger. I feel for myself, there was a large disconnect between the INTJ mindset that I had and the scope of the world, especially on the materialism side. And I mean, everyone has a certain level of materialism because you have to make your way in the world in some capacity. So you do rely on some sort of material goods. But I do appreciate the point where it's that gross materialism that goes outside the scope to just being something that you need to have, as opposed to making sense of why you need it or why you want it. And there is that existential time I felt when you are going into your 20s where you are faced with the society that you're in, especially if you're going into university, and it can be pretty shallow at times and superficial, and you look at that scope and you don't see where you're going forward. You don't have that feeling of your next direction in life, and that's very difficult, I find, as an INTJ. You're okay with going down a certain path without all the tools in the toolkit. You'll figure it out on your own. However, at the same time, you do like to have some sort of scope and some sort of new thing on the horizon that you can explore and make your own. So I wanted to mention a couple of things that I found that was pretty helpful, and I still do it. One is taking the time to, even a couple minutes, to make full awareness of where I'm at. So instead of living in my head, actually pulling into more of the sensory experience. And I got a really good tip from someone mentioning trying to drill into your senses, so your 5 senses, and being articulate about it. So noticing specifically one thing that is in the room and what color that is, noticing what it smells like in the room, noticing what it sounds like in the room, and what does it feel like where you're sitting or where you're standing, and putting more thought into that grounding practice, because it for myself, it definitely helped both in self-care but also in when you're kind of put into this nebulous world that you're trying to make sense of your next steps. Another thing too is, for myself, that I want to create meaning, and I want to create something of value for not just myself but for people around me. And so one thing I found really interesting and allows a lot of new doors to be explored is the idea of volunteering. Not everyone is interested in volunteering. The reason why I mention it is that I found it very grounding in the way that I'm seeing a new subjective experience that I might not have been part of. So for myself, I have a strong affinity for working with different organizations regarding children and critical care during, say, emergency times where they could be put at risk by their parents or caregivers. And those types of things really bring value because it makes for myself step aside from what I have become used to and almost not even paying attention to in my everyday life, and really seeing somebody's context that is different than mine. And especially too when it's meaningful volunteering, there's something that is it's funny that almost that thank you that you get after volunteering is almost worth more than your paycheck when it comes to filling up meaning and value and in who you are and what you bring to your existence. Another thing too, and this is speaking to my age, but I do totally still subscribe to this, is when you're feeling unsure of where you're going, or upset or downtrodden, or feeling despondent, another piece is the library. And it's something that most people think it's for not the savvy social media folks of today. But the reason why I mention this is that there is something wonderful about going into the experience of a library where there is tactile information around you. It is not just easy, immediate access. You have to search for it. You get to go down and research things that you might not even try to research online because you wouldn't even know where to start. So for an example, for me, I usually come up with 3 different subjects that I'm interested in going and taking a look at. And with that, so say for myself, it is psychology, architecture, I gotta write this down, and inventors. And those were usually my interests. So when I am able to bring that mindset into the library, I can go hunt down that location of the library and take the time I need to go and feel the books, open them up, browse what the contents are. And I'm mentioning all these things in detail because it speaks to the feeling of grounding that it brings in my experience. And because I'm interested in those topics, another thing that for me as an INTJ, I love being able to go to the back of the book and see all of the different resources that were used in citing in the book, because that takes me on another goose chase and I get to learn something new. So I get to find, again, more things that maybe aren't accessible online. So anyways, I'm touching mostly on the idea of going back to the spatial side of things and sensory side of things in order that I found it was helpful for grounding for me when I was going through difficult avenues in my life and making sense of things. So I hope that helps. It doesn't change or make it any worse or better in the experience that young INTJ females are going through when they're managing this sometimes scary part of the world and life, but sometimes getting back just to those tactile or sensory things can help with that grounding process and help you come with a bit of a light bulb in where your next direction is going to go. So anyways, thanks so much for watching, and I will, again, as always, if any video requests, make sure that you put video request in the comment section so then I can make sure I can quickly see it. Thanks so much.